So when I was married, a big problem that I had with my ex-husband, my husband at the time, was that with money, he was just like, it would just go through his fingers. I don't know where the money went. It just would disappear. Whatever money we had would disappear. And we weren't going ahead. We were falling backward. And I was very frugal, and maybe even more so around him, because to balance it out sometimes. So we would get into arguments, and sometimes in front of the kids about money, and because I would, he was teaching his kids to be irresponsible as well. By the way he was, his kids obviously would take his example. So anyway, for the long-term future, that wasn't a good thing. Anyway, long story short, we ended up getting divorced, etc. So he had a girlfriend. Before he married his current wife, he had a girlfriend. And of course, he told her, oh, I had screwed him over. It's a new relationship. The girl's going to believe him that I had screwed him over, that the house was his, and that, I don't know what he told her, but for some reason that woman had a perception of me that I was a bee, that I had taken all his money, which in truth it was the opposite. Fine, I'm not going to get into the argument now. I've been through it, whatever. But he had told her apparently that. I kind of could sense that that was what was going on. Like it was when I would go back to visit Argentina to do whatever I needed to do, visit family stuff. I actually would go visit the kids, and sometimes that girlfriend, before his current wife, would be there, and we were polite to each other. She understood. She was actually quite understanding that I had a relationship with his kids. They were now grown, but they were still at the time living together. So it was fine. It was all very cordial. Hello. We were actually even nice to each other, and at least in all appearances. Fine. I was only there a few days anyway. I didn't stay in the house with them, but I would go over and visit every day. I would stay at my aunt's house. Obviously, that would have been uncomfortable. Staying in the house with him and his girlfriend. But anyway, they ended up breaking up. And I do know that she had loaned him, in quotes, money, which she believed was a loan, which I already knew this about him, which he apparently had spent. I heard through third parties that he'd spent all the money that he'd loaned, never paid her back, which obviously I now know him. I know that if anyone loans that man money, they're not getting it back. You may as well just say it's a gift. So anyway, that caused some problem in their relationship. She soon realized what was going on, that he was just taking money out of her. He's a very handsome, charming man. I know how he works. So, whatever, they ended up breaking up, and after they broke up, I never told a soul of this. Well, I actually have told some of my American friends, but I didn't tell anyone that knows him or her. She messaged me and said, I now understand. I now understand. That's all she said. And she sent me a friend request on Facebook, and she was friends with one or two of his kids. So I said no. I mean, I understood her as well. She understood me. I understood. It was we didn't even have to discuss it. We understood what each other had been through, because we had dated the same man, been with this. So I did write her back. I said, well, I thank you for the friend request. It would be slightly uncomfortable for me to be friends with you on Facebook, but yeah, we're women of a certain age now, and we have to be careful. There are very charming men out in the world that take advantage of a woman who's alone, who's still hoping to find love. So, I just kind of gave her just a little 2 cents of advice. She'd already learned basically what I learned. Just be careful. You can, be open to love, but just be a little bit more cynical, unfortunately, about it, because, there are a lot of vultures out there, and it could be, whether it be a man or a woman, this is advice to all of you. There are a lot of women who are vultures, looking for a lonely man who's vulnerable, who's willing to spend money. And that's fine. If you know that's what the relationship is based on, then go in with your eyes open and maybe, sure, okay, I know he's in it for the money, but I like this arrangement. Some people like that. I personally don't, but if you can handle that and you know that the person is in part with you because of your money, saying you have some, go ahead. And anyway, so getting back to the girlfriend. So whatever, I wrote her back telling her that, and we got to be careful. We're both relatively attractive. That's one thing. My husband finds women who have some money to spend. Again, they don't have to be rich, but they're always kind of stable women that have money to spend, so they'll loan him some money or stuff. So she was a relatively attractive woman, kind of like me, for our age, we're decent looking women. And my husband chooses slender women. He happens to like that look, I guess. My ex-husband. See, I sometimes even slip up and call him my husband still. There's still a little bit of something there, obviously. Not love. I definitely don't want to back with him ever. But I don't know what it is. I mean, you feel a little bit responsible. I mean, you did take those vows to take care of the person the rest of their life. So even though you're divorced, at least in my case, I don't feel I have to take care of him the rest of their life. Okay, the contract fell through, in quotes. But a part of me does kind of go back, well, I promised, and, a little part of me hasn't let go of that promise, in quotes. I mean, obviously, consciously I have, but there's probably a little part of me deep down in my subconscious that says, well, you promised, and that's something I, at the time, took very seriously. And so maybe a part of me does worry a little bit about him. But anyway, here's what happened. After that girlfriend, he met another woman, also a woman who put up with his problems, and I'm sure he gave her a song and dance that, oh, I'm so miserable, life has been so cruel to me, and I've been so unfortunate to have never met the right woman, and now I'm sure he told her, you're so different from all the others, you're special, and boosted up her ego. She was a widow, which I'm sure was difficult for her. A widow from, a few years, but probably more innocent than us two, because myself and the other girlfriend were divorced. I mean, I divorced my husband. She was divorced from her first husband. So I don't want to say we're more worldly, but we've perhaps, having not married the right person, we've become a little bit wiser, hopefully, for the second or third time around. By the third time, I hope there's never a third time. I hope this is my last relationship that I'm in right now. It probably is, because even if this one doesn't work out, I am so not getting involved with anyone again. I was ready to not be involved with anyone. That's when this guy turned up. But anyway, so this woman, okay, they got married about less than a year ago, if I'm not mistaken. I'm trying to think. Was it October? No, it was less than a year ago. I think it was October, maybe a year ago, if that. They were married legally. Now, this is a weird thing. So, the other day, about a week ago, I got a friend request. Oh, worse than that. Okay, a few months ago. Let's go back a little bit. I had gone to Argentina. I had some things to do, and my stepdaughter had bought herself a used car. A disaster. The car broke like a month after she bought it, broke down, needed all this fixing. I mean, and so I said, well, it's just sitting there in front of her house. It looked like, living in the neighborhoods where they have cars that are broken in front of their house and just sit there for years. So the car had been sitting there already for a while by the time I got there, and it was, had some rust on it, and it was just a mess. It was just a disaster. And she and her sister, struggling, are able to rent a teeny little house in a decent neighborhood. I always told them, no matter how hard it is, find the dinkiest, worst, most horrible house in a decent neighborhood. better than buying or renting a mansion in a horrible neighborhood where there's a lot of crime and all. It's worse because if you're the rich person in the poor neighborhood, your house is going to get broken into all the time. So it's always best to try to get to the safest neighborhood possible, however you need to do it. So they were in a very nice neighborhood with, pleasant middle-class neighborhood, up maybe slightly leaning to upper middle class, but it was the most horrible rundown house that they're renting. It's livable, but because you can always kind of fix it up and a little bit when you're renting. But, they looked like, the car in front of the house. I mean, I think they could even get a fine for having a busted up car in front of the house if it's sitting there and it's an eyesore. So I said, okay, in Argentina, the dollar happens to be very strong right now. So with like $75, I could get the car fixed. So I said, all right. I decided, all right, I'll do this to her. I'll tell her it's a loan. I don't expect her to be able to. It's not that I know she wants to pay it back, but I know she can. In Argentina, $75 is like, it's so much money. It's not like $75 here is a nice chunk of change. But you can't fix a busted up car with $75. So I, said, okay, it's a loan. When you can, pay me back. I know right now it's impossible. No matter how hard she works, they're barely making ends meet. And with that car, she has her own little side business where she makes deliveries. She has a little gardening business and she sells plants and she delivers. And so that's fine. I told her it was a loan. In the back of my mind, I don't think she's ever going to pay me back, but it's fine. It's my stepchildren are kind of like my nieces. I kind of see them as my nieces and nephews. I don't feel like I'm their mother, but I feel I feel some love for them, and I'd like to help them out and see them do okay in life if I can. I kind of want to break the ties little by little, but they're still, But anyway, okay. She took the car to get fixed. She paid the people for the parts, because she also had a friend who was doing her a favor. Actually, it should have been a lot more expensive, but she had a friend who was helping her out. She said, okay, you got to buy the parts. I'll charge you a little more. I think she was able to pay the little more. She paid some of it herself too. It wasn't all that I paid for the whole thing, but I paid for the parts and part of the labor, and she took out of her pocket to pay a little more. So the car was... So she'd already paid the guy for the parts anyway and bought him the parts and given him the parts. She still was going to pay him for the labor, but he wasn't doing the car. He wasn't getting it fixed, and already like 2 months had passed. So I was getting concerned. I said, she's already spent all that money. She's not even getting her car, and in part it was my money, but it was for her. I said, she's going to get into this spiral. The guy's not giving her car. She's not going to be able to do her side business. She has a job, but she has to do some activity on the side. She needs that car. And I was starting to get very anxious about it 2 months in. So I sent a message to her father, to my stepdaughter's father, my ex-husband. He's now married, of course, and living in the suburbs of Cordoba. And I said, listen, it's a WhatsApp where you can send voice as well as text. So I started texting a little bit. I said, look, Vicky's car is still at the shop. The guy appears to not be doing anything. He's already taken he's taken the spare parts. He could be a swindler, like there are so many in Argentina. I said he might be swindling her. I didn't know the guy. She said it was a friend, in quotes. You know how many friends screw you. So I was getting a little nervous at that point. And so I decided to just speak directly to her father, even though she's an adult. She's in her 20s. She's like 22, 23 now, I think. Still, at that age, they're still a little bit innocent sometimes. And since her father is in that area of, he was a taxi driver for many years, so he knows the auto shop industry. He'd had to always take cabs in there get him fixed and etc. When he was driving the cab for someone else, part of his job was to take the cab in and get even though the owner of the cab pays, he was in charge of making sure the cab was running properly, etc. So he knows the auto shop world and how people will sometimes kind of swindle, even in the U.S., in other countries too. Sometimes auto shop owners know that, in particular, women don't know anything about cars, so many women get taken for a ride, made to spend more money than actually. So I was really getting worried. I wrote him a text, and then we started sending WhatsApp messages about that, just about the situation with the car, nothing else. You're just completely concerned about the girl. Okay, so he said, yeah, don't worry. He sent a message back, don't worry, I'll look into it. I know what you mean. And I said, you know the business. Maybe, sometimes maybe she doesn't want to tell her father things. I mean, whatever. Maybe it was wrong to do it. Maybe it wasn't. But it's what I felt at the moment. I was far away, so I could, I'm here in the U.S. He's all the way in Argentina. So it's not like I could go to the auto shop and see what was going on, even if I knew more about cars. I know a little bit, but fine. Whatever, we resolved it over we didn't even speak directly. We spoke through these messages that you send over WhatsApp, the voice messages. And, okay, about an hour later, I get a message from his phone. This is his wife. Don't ever speak to my husband again. She wrote a text. This is his wife. I saw all the messages and heard all the messages that you exchanged with him. Don't ever approach my husband again. It's like sort of like, I can understand that, sure, you don't want your husband to be having a relationship with his ex-wife in any way, shape, or form, especially when the ex-wife isn't even biologically related to his kids. I could see her point, but I thought it was a bit of an overreaction. If she heard the messages, she saw that there was absolutely nothing in there that indicated any interest in him other than I was concerned about, his daughter. But whatever, she, stay away from my husband. If you want to have a relationship with his kids, that's fine, but don't drag him into it. He can deal with his kids on his own. He doesn't need you, kind of like a very, it was polite. She didn't use any vulgarities. And I've met the person. I've met the woman as well. When I have been to Argentina, when we sold the house, I had to cross paths with her. But she was always very nice to me in person, which is why, not, again, cordial, proper, behaving, which is why I was surprised at her now reaction so violent, violent, it wasn't violent, it was, but she took I believe she overreacted to me writing to him about his daughter, which I raised. So, anyway, fine. I just texted back like, oh, okay, I'm so sorry. I kind of understood. I thought she was overreacting, but I said, okay, I'll just appease her. Look, I understand. I won't do it again. I was just very concerned in this case, but I understand your point. I didn't want to cause any. But anyway, so I sent it, but it bounced back. So apparently she'd written that message and blocked me. So I was like, okay, whatever. I was like, fine. Then I went to Facebook. I wasn't friends with him on Facebook. We were no longer friends. We had been friends when we were married, but, after the marriage ended, we unfriended each other. I think he unfriended me, but then I couldn't even see, I would sometimes see his posts on my stepkids' pages, but I noticed that she had blocked me from even seeing his Facebook. So, I was curious. That's why I checked. I was like, what is going on? She blocked me on the WhatsApp. I wonder if she's just completely taking over his life and deciding that he's going to be blocked from. So I checked, and she had also blocked me from, not only, I wasn't friends with him, but she had blocked me from actually even seeing his existence on Facebook. There's a way you could do that too. So she obviously had access to his Facebook. So, which is fine. When I was married to him, I had his password, and I never used it against him. But, sometimes you do that. You exchange passwords with people. So I I was like, okay, whatever. I thought, okay, either this is how their relationship is and that they've agreed that that's what how they want to have the relationship, or there are problems in the relationship. I said, for someone to really act to be so insecure, there's got to be problems in the relationship, I thought to myself. And I said, okay, fine. If there are problems in that relationship, even less of a reason for me to want to be in the mix, because I don't want to get blamed for anything. So I just let it slide. I didn't tell his kids about what this incident. I obviously didn't tell him. I didn't tell anyone about it, really, about this incident. Thinking, all right, whatever, I probably will never cross paths with her because, she's the one that's in the family now. And so, anyway, about a week ago, all right, that was, I believe, back in, if I look at my phone, I could see when that happened. Actually, let me go up there and see when she wrote me that mail. But it wasn't that long ago. It was maybe 2 or 3 months ago at most. Okay, so the message was on August 10th of this year. So that was just in August. Now we're in December. Okay. So about, I'd say a week or two ago, I got a friend request from my ex-husband, but not from his Facebook page that he had originally. It was his name, and it was no picture at all. So the first thing I thought was, oh, this is one of those hackers. For some reason, I don't know how, maybe looking at his friends and then finding his friends' friends and sending out, how that happens on Facebook a lot. I said, this is a hacker putting his name there for, just to try to do whatever they do when they hack or try to get friends from, like they're like an imposter. I thought it was an imposter account. So I didn't accept. I just said, whatever, But then he sent me a message on Facebook Messenger, like, hey, what's up? Like, in a wave, just a quick, I still didn't respond. I said, this imposter he won't give up. Give me a break, Doesn't he even realize that even if he's the imposter, he must realize I'm the ex-wife. So why would an ex-wife want to be friends with her ex-husband? Usually you don't want to. So, but then I looked at the profile anyway. I said, well, it's impossible. Let me have a look at this profile. And I looked at his profile, and he'd already friended a lot of the people that, that we knew from back when we were together. His friends and even his stepkids, my stepkids, his real kids, were friends with him, with this imposter in quotes. So I was like, wait a minute. Now all these people are friends with him, so could it possibly really be him? So I wrote to my stepson. I said, hey, I noticed that you just friended this guy. I think it's an imposter. You better be careful. I think it's someone who's pretending to be your father. I think he's an imposter. Are you sure that's him? And he wrote back, oh, yeah, it is him. I think his other account somehow got messed up, or, his other account got closed for some reason. So he opened a new one. So that is my father. So I was like, OMG, what's going on here? So of course, it's none of my business, but of course this is where it starts to get juicy. I'm like, what's going on, Now, if he were still, like the first thing I thought, if he were still doing well with his wife, as far as I know, they legally got married. It was very clear that she doesn't want him friending ex-girlfriends and ex-wives. So, that was the other thing, because I looked on his friends list and I saw that his ex-girlfriend, the one between his current wife and me, the one he had in between, was friends with him. So I was like, the one that had written to me. So I was like, no. So I started saying, this is getting juicy. Then I went over to his current wife's page. A current wife, just to, see what's the deal, Yeah, I'm snooping. She's probably going to see me pop up in her friends list now, or like her friends suggestions, but whatever. But I just had to, and she didn't block me from seeing her page. She had only blocked me from seeing his page back in August. So she had a post up there. She had pictures of her and him together, happy in her, but her last post, her most recent post that was visible, because she doesn't, most of the stuff was not accessible because I'm not friends with her, but some of the stuff was. So the latest post that I was able to see was a very recent one, like from November, where she says, "Oh, when you suffer pain in life." Oh, here's the other thing. Okay, the first thing I noticed was that it was no longer, the profile picture was no longer he and her together. It had always been them both together. Suddenly she was by herself in the profile picture. So that was my first inkling. What's going on here? There's no longer both of them. All right, it doesn't mean anything. Sometimes you just, want to be, by yourself. So, but then her latest post was, when you suffer deep pain in life, it's good because it helps you grow, and it's, something like that. It was in Spanish, but basically that was the message, that the pain that you suffer in life is good for the future, and it helps you learn. And so I was like, that's kind of somber, because like all the other visible posts were happy, and I'm married, and I've met the wonderful man, and my husband is perfect. And I would sometimes see her post on my stepkids page, like things like, "Oh, you children are wonderful, and we're so proud of you," and just like really, all this gushy, wonderful, happy stuff. So suddenly to have that somber post, it was a little bit, for what little I knew of her, was not very characteristic. But then I looked at the other pictures, and there were still pictures of her and him from, the past posts. They're happy together with the different situations, but it was always posts of them both together. There were very few posts of her by herself or him by himself. So, and suddenly, boom, the complete opposite. He was no longer in her profile, that somber message about pain. And so I said, okay, something's up. But it still showed that she was married. And, so that was about a week ago. And, okay, I'm not sure which happened when, but anyway. So then, about a day or two ago, I'm not sure why I checked again. Let me think. Maybe I saw that first, and then I wrote to my stepson, and my stepson told me, no, that yes, that really is him. Maybe that's how the order went. So for some reason, I went back to her page yesterday. Yeah, it must have happened like yesterday or the day before, just to see, any developments, and now all the pictures of them together are gone. Her status is now separated. And I'm not saying this out of pleasure. I think it's sad, because I understand what she's going through with him. I've been through it myself. But what else? Yes, it's just pictures of herself, or, maybe her with her kids, or no pictures of him, at least as, again, I'm not friends with her, so I don't know what other pictures I can't see. But the ones that are visible publicly, all the profile pictures of them from the past are all gone. And her status is separated, which means, she's, I guess, I don't know, it could be temporarily separated. Maybe they'll work it out, but, it's just, this all erupted. And what I'm thinking, something really bad happened. So she went into his Facebook and completely either closed his account in revenge or something. But for some reason, he doesn't have access to his own Facebook page. He had to open a new page. But, I don't want to be nosy. I'm not going to ask. But, I'm sure at some point when I go back to see my and I'll say hi to my stepkids, I'll get more of the scoop of what's going on. Oh, anyway. You feel like, he completely tricked you. You thought he was one thing and he wasn't, and he made him, but that's the thing. It's not that you blindly think, oh, he's one. He makes himself look like he's that wonderful person. And then you really get to know him, and he's completely just taking you for a lot of money, or, and women do this. Women, gold diggers, they're called gold diggers if it's a woman who does it, but men do it too. And you don't have to be rich to get taken by a gold digger. You could be someone who's just barely making ends meet, but you might have a little money saved up, if that person finds out you got that money, he'll do what he needs to do to seduce you, to get you to hand over that savings you have. And then, if the relationship ends, he doesn't care because you got no money left to give him anyway. So that's the thing. I mean, I liked, and I was with the man for 10 years, and it took me like almost 10 years to figure out that, or at least to even consider that he didn't love me. I just kept thinking, oh, he made a mistake, he's learning, he's this. I always found excuses for him. And the fact of the matter is, he has an illness, or he's just a swindler that doesn't care about other people or something. But anyway, I do kind of like the juicy situation. It's like sort of